Hey, welcome to another update on Archmage Rises. It's been a little while, and that's because there's so much that's been going on, and now I'm taking some time in order to share with you what has been going on. Lots of exciting things to get to. So the first thing is, well, there's two things everybody wants to know. When's the game going to be released? That's the first thing. I'll talk more about that in a second. But the other thing is, like, hey, how's this combat build going? Like, you guys have these build numbers, build 11, build 12, build 13. You seem to like to take 17 months to do each one. You've been working on combat. How is that going? So, let me give you a quick update on combat, then we'll get into the bigger issue of building out the team. So, the first thing on combat is we've been working really hard on it since January 4th. So, I may not have said anything and I haven't shown anything, but the team is hard at work on doing it. And we are very close to being at the end of combat. I can't say a specific date or something, but just this week we finished adding the final spell to combat and its spell upgrades, because you can now upgrade spells. And that there's at least 35 new spells that we've added to the game that has combat purposes. There might even be more than that. We've also combat is just way better than it was, way better than I guess I'd hoped. It's pretty exciting to see it. So there's if you remember the update when we said, okay, we're going to start working on build 13, these are the principles, is what we're going for. Combat has complex interactions, it has combos, it has interesting choices to make all throughout the battle. And so just on Friday we were dealing with some of the edge cases and ramifications of some of these interesting choices, and I'll just give you a quick example so you can get a picture for the complexity that is available within combat. So you have a fly spell, and when you cast fly on an enemy and they don't have the ability of flying, then essentially they're just like floating in the air. They're immobilized. You can then use your force push in order to push that person through the air, and then you can use dispel in order to drop them down on a rock or on another monster. That created a lot of issues for us, because if you drop a guy on a barrel, the barrel breaks, the guy takes damage. That's really simple. If you drop like a barrel on a barrel, or you drop a barrel onto a goblin, that's also very simple. We call the barrel breakables. There's a variety of things, but anyways, they're breakables. So you drop them, they break, no big deal. But what happens when you drop a guy on a guy? Now, for those of you that are old school, I used to love playing Double Dragon in the arcades at a convenience store. That ate up a lot of my quarters. Somebody stole my bike from out front of the store because I was so enamored with playing Double Dragon. I never noticed that they stole my bike. And so one of my favorite things Double Dragon is you go punch, 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 and then you grab the guy, and then you chuck the guy into the other guys and knocks them down. I love it. Okay, so that's what we're bringing to Archmage. It's like, hey, I want to be able to pick up a guy, float him, move him over, drop him down onto somebody else. Well, what happens? Well, we can't have two enemies in the same spot. So it might seem pretty natural, pretty obvious. Maybe it's like, okay, well, one of them moves out of the way. So he drops, they take damage, and one of them gets pushed out. Okay, but what if there's somebody beside him? What if there's a tree beside him? What if there's trees all surrounding? What if the player casts Ice Wall, fills the whole battlefield with ice walls, and then you do this setup? And at the end of the day, we just had to throw up our hands and say, it just does this. So that takes a while, but it shows hopefully the creativity and the interesting choices that the player can make now in combat. It's not just throw up a shield and then go bam, 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 and shoot guys down. So, not that there's anything wrong with that, but we could do better than that. So, I think the dungeons were a big improvement. When we put all of our brain power and effort into making the dungeons good, I think you saw a big improvement there. We've now taken all that same brain power and applied that to combat, and we're close to the end. We're now adding in new monsters to the combat. We did all the spells and all the status effects. So enemies can go nauseous, they can be knocked prone, they can be incapacitated, they can be flying, they can be webbed. They could be muted, silenced, blinded, deafened. Basically anything you see in the D&D rulebook under status effects. Basically, pretty much all of them we managed to get into the game. So it's exciting. Okay, so that's where combat is, and I will show you more about combat, and we will release a combat build soon. But working on other things right now that are even more important than that, and there's two of those things. Very briefly, as I said in the annual update, the most important thing to figure out when will we finish this game is to figure out, well, what are all the features in the game? And the only way to figure out what all the features are in the game is to define all the features in the game, which is something I've been putting off for 7 years. And I don't know, now I'm finally made my bed, now I have to sleep in it. So now I'm defining all those features. That's going well. It's going slowly, but it's going well. There's so many things to work out. Like, what is the UI for enchanting an item? How many slots of enchantment can you put on a single item? The inspiration for the enchanting feature, for example, there's like so many features that I had to define over the last month or so, but just using enchanting, because that's what I was working on this week. It's pretty much based on Fallout 4, how you would get a gun and you would be able to just continually keep tinkering and modifying with your gun. I guess a little bit like Diablo 3 when you can re-roll one of the stats on your weapon. It allows you to like hold on to something longer and put stronger and stronger enchantments on it. That's what I want. It's not just like grab a sword, throw some enchantments on it, that's it. Oh, I want to put new enchantments. Oh, go get a new sword, put new enchantments on it, and continually go through that. I liked in Fallout 4 where I was able to basically get one gun in the first 20% of the game, and I just used that gun all the way throughout. I just kept making it better and adding things to it, and it was cool. So that's what I want the feel to be for the mage, that, you know, these are my robes. Maybe they were handed down to me by somebody important. Or it was my graduation gift from my teacher from the conclave, something like that. So you have these robes, and you just continually make your robes better and better over the course of the game. And there's costs to enchanting. Anyway, my whole point is that in order to figure out how long is it going to take in order to make this enchanting feature, I need to figure out, well, what's the UI? Not perfectly, but roughly, what is the UI? What can you do? What can't you do? It made us discover that materials of things really matter. So if it's wood and cloth, you're able to get more enchantments on it than if it's just inert iron. So we have to figure out all these things. And then once we have it and we look at it, say, okay, well, that's going to take 17 days. And then once we have that, then we can say, oh, that's going to take too long. We're going to cut it. And so it's kind of a brutal, tedious process. I mean, at this point, I don't want to cut anything that I've defined, but once I'm done, then we're going to go through a process of looking at all the remaining features and say, does it have to be done for release? Can we do it should it be assigned to DLC? Should it be assigned to a free update? Should it be moved to Archmage Rises 2? Or should it be cut? Those are the 5 things that can happen with these features. So figuring that out is difficult. That's not the purpose of this video, but that is what's happening. So this next part is what I've really been spending my time on, and that is building out the team. I told you that I'm in a release mindset. I really want to get the game done. I'm working on it for 7 years. I had one child who was 1 year old when I started this. I now have 3 children, and she's 8 and in grade 3, and I gotta get this thing done. I gotta move on with my life, move on to other games, but move on in my life. So I was looking at how can we expand the team even further. So we have myself, which is okay quality. Then we have Michael, he's good. Then we have Daniel, he's good. Then we have Daniel 2, who was working part-time and was like, you know what would be great? Now, he's got a day job. He's working on business software, website-y stuff. You know what would be great is if we could bring him on full-time. Now, he has a lot of experience. He's a very good coder. He's been working for a number of years, team lead, all that stuff. So he's very good. He's also very expensive. So I'm trying to figure out it sure would be great to do this. So I talked to him about that, and he said, yes, I would really like to come on full time. I get that you can't pay me what I'm making in the business world. For those that don't know, game dev, usually you make less money than you do out in the business world, because there's more risk, really. So even at the AAA level, there's still a huge risk on making these big games, and then it just doesn't sell enough copies. Whereas in the business world, when I would strike a contract, I've sold $1 million contracts to a company. They pay you, and if they don't pay you partway along, you just stop, and then they're like, "Oh crap, okay, we got to pay you," and then you continue on. So like, there's more money kind of flowing around in business software, and it's easier to pay the people that. So anyway, he was looking at a pay cut to come here. I was looking at a big increase of what I pay in order to get him here, and we struck a deal. And I said, "Okay, so you want to do this? I want to do this. Let's figure out a way in order to do this." So then I went back to Soma and said, "Hey, would you need any help? Do you want us to like continue working on the cooking game with you or something else? Like what's going on there?" And they said, "Yeah, actually, we'd really like you to work on the cooking game. So let's line that up. You tell us when you're available." And so I said, "Great. I need a long-term commitment from you, because I'm going to hire a guy full time. He's pretty pricey, in order to pull this off." And they said, "Yes, let's do it. Let's do 6 months." And so we made that agreement to do that. So I was like, great. So I was able to go back to D2 and say, here it is. We can do this. Let's set a start date of, I forget, it was like April 1st. So let's set a start date and let's go do this. He's like, great, sounds good. 2 weeks later, he says, I'm not coming. I'm backing out. And he has personal reasons for that I won't go into. But that really sucked. That sucked for a number of things. One is I hate it when plans change. So I was just like, oh, we had this win for him, win for us, win for Soma. It was a win-win-win plan. It's hard to find a triple win plan, and now it's all gone up in smoke. So the second thing that sucks about it is I'm still committed to this contract work. I went and signed the deal on the contract work. Well, it was a verbal agreement, but I stick to what I say, which is the only thing that's keeping Archmage going right now. So I made this agreement with them based on you coming aboard, and now you're not coming, and now there's like less of us to work on this thing. So not only do I have to work on Archmage, I got to work on this other thing, and I have the same number of people, just the three of us. So that required me to go and start doing some recruiting. So I started putting out some job postings and feeling out my network and seeing where that goes. And I ended up getting three strong candidates. And one of them is a super fan that's been following this game pretty much from the beginning. The very first Gamma Sutra article that I published, he saw it and started following the game 7 long years ago. So that was cool. I was like, wow, here's somebody who's active on the forums and knows the game, had numerous conversations with him. I didn't know he was looking for work until obviously this posting went out. So that was cool. So he's like, yeah, I'm interested. Like, let's do this. And, it's not easy to work here. So I have a requirement that people come and work here on this remote island in Northern Ontario, Canada. So that's not easy for people. Secondly, I don't pay good. And the reason I don't pay good is, if you saw the annual updates, because I'm running out of money. I don't have the money. I get paid nothing. And then I try to pay something to the other guys. And basically, if you're coming here, it's because you want to be a part of what's going on here. You want to change the way RPGs are made. You want to be a part of, hopefully, a tentpole indie game that is going to show how, if you reduce combat, so much more gameplay becomes viable and fun, and procedural, narrative, story-driven, choice-driven play is viable. It's like something that we can do if we have the will to do it. So making a mage simulator is by no means an easy thing, but there's not very many of them on the planet. If you want to get in on the ground floor, if you want to be in the games industry, this is the cutting edge cool stuff. the kind of things you work on here, put it on your resume. It's only going to help you get into the games industry. So that's what I have to offer, is the opportunity to work on this thing, to learn, to step up your knowledge about procedural generation and procedural narrative and such. So anyway, so I had these 3 candidates, and I was like looking at it, I'm like, well, Daniel too, he was like pretty expensive. These people, they don't have that same kind of requirement. So actually I could hire 2 people. So that's pretty good. So I interviewed the people, vetted them, they did a programming test, and now I have 3 candidates, and I need to decide which 2 I'm going to make an offer to. And then I was thinking about those thousands of hours that I posted in the annual update. So like last year, we did 2,781 hours on Archmage Rises. The previous year, we did 1,800 hours on Archmage Rises. So I think by hiring Daniel too, that we would get to 3,560 hours on Archmage Rises this year. So it would be the highest ever in terms of effort going into the game. But I'm like, what if there's a way to hire 3 people? And I don't have enough money to hire 3 people. And we were just looking at moving into an office. If I'm hiring 2 more people, that makes 5 of us, cramming 5 of us into this office that I have in the basement of my house. Is just like difficult. And then in this tiny town that we're in, some commercial real estate just came up. And I was like, wow, that would work as an office. So I was like, maybe it's time to move into an office. So then I have to put some costs in for moving and, monthly rent and having to pay some more bills and stuff that I currently don't have to pay because we're working in an office out of my basement. Anyway, so I was looking at hiring 2 people and moving the office. And then I started thinking, I was like, what if we don't move offices? What's more valuable? Another set of hands to finish the game, or a nicer work environment for everybody? And I talked to the team about that and was like, you know what? It's worth cramming in and having not so great working conditions if we could get another person helping us finish this game. And so I spent at least 12, 15 hours that weekend trying to come up with a way to hire this 3rd person. So then on Monday, after talking with the team, I was like, okay, great, this is what we're going to do. And I sent out the email to all 3 candidates saying, hey, love to have you on board. Let's do this. And it was everything that we had previously talked about in the interviews and stuff. So basically just formalizing the offer. First person said, yeah, let's do it. Can't wait to move to Canada. This will be great. Second person says, yeah, that's great. Can't wait to move to Canada. That'll be great. Third person says, I'm already in Canada and I'm out. And I was like, oh man, I just spent all this time trying to figure out how to do this. And so now I'm down to 2. And I was like, okay. Should I try and find a 3rd? No, I guess I was just making a special situation because I thought this 3rd candidate was good. So now I started organizing. Okay, when are people going to start? There's paperwork to be done, whatever. We started doing that paperwork. And then the first person says, actually, I'm out. They got offered a much better job. That's the short answer. They were looking for a job, they got offered a much better job, and so they're out. So no hard feelings at all about that. That's just life. That's what happens. So now, out of 3, I'm down to 1, and fortunately, and that person wasn't supposed to start until April. So then I went back to them and said, hey, you want to start in March? And they said yes. So Josh joined us March 1st. So I'm shooting this video on March 6th. And he has now had his first week. And let me tell you, he's real good. We gave him a difficult task. We told him it was easy. But we gave him a difficult task to make a new spell, the Ice Shield. And the Ice Shield, we already have a Fire Shield, we already have a regular Arcane Shield, and the Ice Shield has a few more things. It can freeze the enemies in the front row, maybe. It takes extra damage if fire spells or abilities are done to it. So there's like a little bit of complicated things to it. So anyway, we gave that to him, and he finished it this week, which was faster than we expected. So it's a huge code base. I forget if I announced this, but I did a quick look, and there's like 3,800 class files in the project. And we do have a bunch of Unity assets that we're using, like for the hex grid and some other things. So like not all those files are our own, but anyway, let's say there's 2,000 of them that are our own. That's still a lot of code. That's still a big code base. And so coming into that and wrapping your head around that code base is the most difficult part of the ramp up. But I guess that's also part of the appeal of working here, is like you're working on something big that's meaty, designed for core gamers, and so that's good. So anyway, he started. We're real happy. That's great. Now what's happening? Well, I kind of had already decided it would be really good to hire a second person. I can afford to hire a second person because of this contract work that I lined up. So I now have another interview later today, and we'll see how that goes. In a couple of hours, I have to do that interview. We'll see how that goes. Assuming it's this person or somebody else, that means that this year, in 2021, I'll just throw up the slide here. So originally I was thinking 2021 we'd do 3,560 hours. But with these two additional people, well, one of them to replace the position that Daniel 2 is going to be in, but then with this additional person, that allows us to get to 6,432 hours. And you'll see that level of effort dwarfs all previous years. In fact, it dwarfs 2 years put together. So when I say that I'm serious about releasing, this is what it means. The decision making that I'm doing is always get this game done, not at any cost, not at low quality, but let's get it done. And I'm trying to do everything I can to get the game done. So when's the game going to be done? Yeah, I still don't know. I'm still working on that. When I'm done mapping out build 14, which not all the features I've put in build 14 will actually be in build 14. But anyway, then I'll be at the point where it's all mapped out and it's done. And that's great. Okay. On another side, with this combat stuff, it's created a lot of need for visual effects in the game. So you cast a spell like Portal, and you teleport somebody from one place on the battlefield, another place on the battlefield. There needs to be some kind of effect. It needs to look cool. We put all this work into making the combat engine amazing, and if it doesn't look good, then people are like, nah, it's not that great. So we need some visual effects. So I currently teach at a school. I teach in video game art. I don't teach the art part of it. I teach all the game designy parts around the art part. And there's a student there that was really a big standout, and they are very good at the school and the assignments and dialogue during class and all these things. So got me thinking, like, well, this person's an artist and they're graduating May 1st and they're looking for something. Maybe they'd be interested in coming here, and if nothing else, then working for kind of a 3-month contract or whatever in order to do these visual effects. And so when we've been talking internally about that, like we've been working on combat and we know, hey, we have all these spells, but they all look like ass. And I'm like, yeah, I got something in the back of my mind. I'm basically waiting for the semester to be like almost over, and then I go and approach this person and say, hey, good job on the semester. I mean, it's obvious that you're going to pass and graduate, whatever. Would you be interested in working together on my game? So I had this person in mind all along. I did briefly talk to them a little while ago about coming on board, and they were like, wow, that'd be like pretty cool. But, they still have a lot of school ahead of them, and that's what they were really focused on. And this past week, they dropped out of the program, and they are just not in a mental state to work on school, on work, on anything. And it goes back to one of my favorite sayings from Henry Ford. I think it's from Henry Ford. It seems like on the internet, everybody gets attributed with everything. But anyway, Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So this person, talented, great person, really knows their games and stuff. They've just reached the point where they think they can't do school, they can't do whatever, and now they're not. They're out of school. Now they're missing out on a job. So whether you think you can, you think you can't, you're right. So that is another person that has fallen to the wayside, and so I'm really having trouble recruiting people. Now there's this other artist that I know, and so I reached out to them and said, hey, would you be interested in doing like technical art, like particle effects and such? And they were like, yeah, I've done a little bit of that, but I'd like to do a lot more of that. And so that person is currently going to do a test to see like what they can do, if this is really what they want to do, and then we should be able to get some good visual effects in. So I think what we're going to do for the combat build is we might be releasing it with like lousy effects for those that are interested in like playing it out and giving us feedback on the mechanics of it, but not really do a lot of like hoopla about it until we get all the visual effects in. And I don't know, maybe like 6 weeks or something before we get the visual effects in, whereas we might be finished off combat in a couple of weeks or something like that. So I don't know what that spread is between those two things. So yeah, that is where we are at. I am trying every way I know how to increase the team to be able to push this thing out the door. But it's not just about getting out the door. It's like once we release, how do we support it? And that's with DLC, because DLC helps pay for the people that stick around in order to keep making it and modifying it, and through free updates. So I'm very impressed by Stardew Valley's free updates. They are meaningful free updates that provide new functionality, and there's just features of the game that I really want in the game, but when I'm faced with the tough choice of delay the game's release in order to get that feature in, I'm just like, nah, I guess it can wait until after. So some of those things might end up in DLC, but they're like they're so small, or I don't know, they're of interest to me. I don't even know if they're interested in anybody else. But anyway, that we could just push out free updates and you just get these things for free. So I'll give you an example. I've mapped out 20 to 23 ways of winning the game for those that need a win condition. There's some people who play Minecraft could care less that there's like anything else to do but whatever it is that they're doing. But I really need and want like some kind of I did it, an achievement, a win condition. So anyways, Archmage Rise is going to have 22 of those. Now, do I need all 22 of those implemented, tested, whatever, in order to release this game? No. I don't even think you'd notice if I took 8 of them. But they're interesting to me, and I'd like to get them in. So adding a new win condition, that is a great free update idea. I'm not making promises here that, that there might be DLC that gives you new win conditions. Like, you said that the new win conditions would be free updates. No, what I said is we're going to do free updates, and that seems like the kind of content that would be great, that everybody would benefit from and go, wow, cool, what a great game. I used to be able to win 12 ways, now I can win 13 ways, now I can win 14 ways. It's just kind of expanding it out. And I don't need to hold up the release of this game in order to do that. So that's an example of what I'm talking about. So anyway, the DLC helps pay for the free updates and keeping everybody around. But more importantly, building a solid team here is what's important to me. That we can not only just build this game, but build a studio that makes multiple titles. That's my goal. So yes, I want to finish Archmage, but I also want to make something after Archmage, and I want to be able to get to Archmage 2. I'm not making Archmage 2 right after Archmage because I'm burnt out. And I just finished Sid Meier's memoir. Great book, by the way, if you haven't read it. And after he made Civ, he never made another Civ again. I was shocked to find that out, but Civ 2 was designed by Brian Reynolds, and Civ 3 was by somebody else, and Civ 4 was by Soren over at Mohawk Games, and etc., etc. So basically what Sid said was after he finished making Civ, he was done. He was burnt out. Like, he put everything into it that he could possibly think of. And Brian Reynolds, he was like, oh, we're just getting started here. This is great. Look, I don't know. It should be this. It should be this. It should be this. So that's how I'm going to feel about Archmage. I'm like, I put everything I possibly could think of to get into this game that was relevant and valuable. oh, now it's time to make the sequel? Like, I'm like, I got nothing. I put like everything in there. So we're going to do something else before we ever approach doing Archmage Rises 2. But I do think we're going to do Archmage Rises 2. I already have a feature list that we've been working on as we're like, you know what, that's better in Archmage Rises 2. So anyway, here's hoping that we finish this one in order to get there. But building a team, so we would be 5 strong, 5 coders. That really allows us to build things quickly. It won't take 7 years anymore in order to make something. Our big goal is to finish Archmage Rises, do DLC and updates, and start spinning up another project that we can do in a year. And I think it'll be great, but we'll see. So that is the update. I guess if you've heard all this recruiting stuff, hey, if you want to come and work on Archmage Rises, you want to move to Canada and work locally, and you want to work for not very good pay, it is livable, but only because the cost of living right here is so low. If you're in Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, whatever, what I pay is below cost of living. But that's, again, why it's so important to be here. But anyway, if you're interested in being a part of this, building up the studio, you can feel free to contact me. You can use the contact thing on the website and email me your info, your resume, and yeah, that's totally fine. I will look at it. Okay, that's it for now. And Archmage Rises, definitely the greatest role-playing game ever made. I see it every day. It's incredible. Can't wait to get it into people's hands and for you to see it too. But happy to have the team that we have that's busily working away on it, and I'm proud to work with them. And I will see you next update. Bye!